Welcome to Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. I'm Megan Waits. Environmentalists have termed acid mine drainage, or AMD, as the single most significant threat to South Africa's environment. While this challenge has been highlighted in the media over the years, the issue is now taking centre stage amidst significant concerns of an impending disaster. In studio to discuss this challenge is Public Environmental Arbiters Chairperson and Federation for a Sustainable Environment CEO, Mariette Lefrank. Welcome, Mariette.
Thank you.
What is the current status on the AMD challenge?
Well, in the Western Basin, which is the smallest of the mining basins, the Western Basin is fully flooded. Since 2009 to 2010, there had been uncontrollable decant of untreated acid mine drainage during the rainy season, up to 56 million litres of acid mine drainage. The rainfall season of 2010 will of course exacerbate the situation. The Tweeloopie-Spruit, which is the receptor river of the decant within the Western Basin, is still a classified Class 5 river, high acute toxic river. There is no aquatic biota, it's all been wiped out. The two hippos are living in a toxic and radioactive dam, and then we also find, of course, that the pits, the reactor pits, are now full because of the radioactive sludge. Within the Central Basin, the water is still rising between 0.3 and 0.9 meters per day. It is about 530 meters from uncontrollable decant, which of course will cause irreversible damage to river systems, surface and groundwater, but it will also impact upon the structural integrity of buildings within central Johannesburg. We can also anticipate that there will be seismicity or ground movement because of the flooding of the Central Basin. So we still anticipate that within the next 15 to 18 months, unless there is urgent intervention, that acid mine water will also decant within the Central Basin. In the Eastern Basin, the situation is continuing. The mine, the beleaguered Aurora mine, must, in order to prevent flooding, pump 108 million litres of mine void water per day. Currently, because of its financial constraints, it is pumping between 30 and 50 million litres per day, which means the Eastern Basin is flooding, and the water that is pumped is discharged untreated in the highly compromised Vaal barrage system that is the Blesbokspruit. We also now do not even touch on what will be happening in future in the Klerksdorp goldfields, the Far Western Basin and the Free State goldfields.
What is your view on government's stance on this challenge?
There was a heartening response after the submission at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on the urgency of the matter. My submission on invitation was augmented and also endorsed by the submission by the Regional Director of Water Affairs, Mr. Marius Skeet, and also by the Water Research Commission. The members of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee then did an in-loco inspection of the East Rand and the West Rand, and there was a commitment made that within a week or two, within a very short time period, there will be definite plans announced, that is short-term, medium and long-term plans. This unfortunately did not happen, so the situation is continued. There has been a lapse into silence. We are not being engaged by government at the moment. The news media, it appears, also do not get responses from government. So at the moment the situation just appears to be in limbo. However, there had been public statements made that NGOs have created alarm by perhaps unfounded statements, or that they are opportunistic. With this we strongly dissent.
Okay. Do you believe that government is enforcing its polluters pay concept?
First of all, it is a very complicated matter. Polluter pays principle should also include the retrospective application of the polluter pays principle in terms of our National Environmental Laws Amendment Act, and not only in terms of our National Environmental Management Act. However, in this case, it is not only 120 mines over a period of 120 years that were the polluters, it is also government. That is the apartheid government that allowed the dewatering of the mining basins to occur. They in fact legalized it, and that of course gave rise now to the situation today of the rewatering, because from dewatering after mine closure follows a restoration of the pre-mining flow patterns and volumes, and that now the water that then flows, that is decant or flows subsurface, are then of the most poor quality water because it contains all the heavy metals, toxic and radioactive heavy metals, and high sulfate loads. So government too is responsible, since government allowed the dewatering to occur and also the rewatering. Just to give you perhaps statistics, government will be responsible from between 9 to 60% of the acid mine water that is currently flooding the mining basins and decanting.
How important is public-private partnerships in tackling this problem?
It will be unsustainable to expect that the mining companies that are still operational today, and here I may mention that there are a few last men standing. Within the Central Basin there is one deep mine, Central Rand Gold, which is a junior mine. In the East Rand it's the beleaguered Aurora mine, and in the Western Basin, where it's again flooded and where it's decanting on surface, it is 3 mining companies, DRD Gold, Mintails and Rand Uranium. It will be unsustainable to expect these mining companies, the last men standing, to pay for 120 years of gold mining activities by 120 gold mines. So while there are many feasible, technically viable processes available, we can refer to Anglo-Coal's reverse osmosis treatment, where the water can be rendered potable because of reverse osmosis treatment, other membrane treatments, ion exchange, even passive treatments. These treatments are all available, but the dilemma is, and that is the challenge, is the fact that there is the economically viability of these processes to be taken into consideration, and no one wants to carry the cost for their predecessors and also for hundreds of years into the future, because acid mine drainage will continue not for decades but for centuries. The potential volume of acid mine drainage within the Witwatersrand goldfields, that is the largest gold mining basin in the world, is 350 million litres per day. That is 10% of Rand Water's water that they provide per day to Gauteng. You must remember, this is not a regional issue. Gauteng is the economic hub of South Africa.
So Mariette, what do we do now? What do we need to do?
Well, first of all, government must make a clear apportionment of liability. We must know who must pay, what percentage government will pay, or indirectly the taxpayer, or what percentage certain of the mining companies will pay. There must be medium, short-term and long-terms put in place, and these have to be put in place with urgency. The decant within the Western Basin, just to exemplify, that happened in 2002. In 1996, the mining companies did propose to government the Strategic Water Management Plan, and that was submitted to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee in 1998. Nothing happened. From 2002, when the decant occurred, to 2010 to today, there has been crisis management and reactive management of the acid mine drainage. We cannot afford to do it in a reactive manner. There has to be proactive management plans put in place, and then if there are contraventions with what the government directs, there must be enforcement of non-compliance with these directives. We know at Aurora, the Department of Water Affairs have issued a pre-directive, then a directive, but there is constant non-compliance with the directive, and it's unenforced. It is really quite an unacceptable situation that end water users who had never caused the pollution, who had no share in the pollution, and who did not benefit from the profits of the mining industry, that they have to continue to carry the costs, and a mute environment who has no voice has to carry the cost of the acid mine drainage issue.
A tasking report should have been released on Friday, 15 October 2010, but nothing happened.
Yes, we have repeatedly written, the Federation for a Sustainable Environment have submitted repeated written requests to request what is the status of the STARS team, what are the findings of the STARS team. We were supported also by the Centre of Environmental Rights and by other NGOs such as leading NGOs, EarthLife Africa and so forth. Regrettably, there's been absolutely no response. The read-only little box on an email was not even responded to. We do feel that government is the custodian of our water resources. It's not the owner. It has a role to play in also communicating to end water users and affected communities regarding the status, and also to non-governmental organizations. But they have lapsed into silence, and we almost feel that we are no longer a participatory democracy, but more an aristocracy.
Okay. The Clean Water Foundation said that by 2015, 80% of our water will be unusable. In response to this, Marva Scott said that environmentalists, NGOs and such are alarmist and opportunistic and for funding and publicity. What are your views on this?
Yes, that is regrettable and extremely disheartening, that while it was acknowledged that this is indeed a crisis in the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on the 21st of July 2010, it was again minimised and again the facts were suppressed. These facts that we refer to are often based, I'm referring now specifically to acid mine drainage and not necessarily to the statement by the Clean Water Foundation. These statements concerning acid mine drainage are grounded upon hundreds, if not thousands, of official government reports that have been funded by taxpayers' money. To deny the findings and the recommendations of those reports will not be reasonable. And I do feel that in order to now put the blame and accuse NGOs, NGOs have fulfilled an extremely important role. They've fulfilled it during the apartheid years as well. We've been the whistleblowers and the watchdogs. The monitoring often of these discharges of acid mine drainage and also polluted water into our receiving water courses had been very cheaply outsourced to civil society. Civil society today fulfill the role of the watchdog, the role that government should play. And it is sad that government does not acknowledge the very important role of non-governmental organizations and also civil society.
Are you funded?
Yes, I am funded. I'm funded by one of the mining companies, and the mining company funds me 13,000 Rand a month. It is 13,000 Rand a month in order to create awareness amongst communities. These communities live in amongst open pits filled with acid mine drainage. Many of the communities perform baptisms in acid mine drainage, discharges, direct discharges from the mines. They also swim in acid mine drainage. They use the water for spiritual rituals and also drink the water, acid mine water, in order, they believe it has certain medicinal purposes. There are some communities that eat the mud that is contaminated with the heavy metals. They bake mud cakes. It's sold on the streets, incidentally, of Johannesburg. They are of the observation or the impression that it contains essential nutrients to supplement perhaps nutrient deficiencies. The practice is called pika. Many of the tailings dams are unfenced. Many of the spits filled with acid mine drainage are unfenced. And the 13,000 Rand that I'm funded is in order to create awareness amongst the ill-informed and uninformed communities in order to protect them from health risks.
Thank you, Mariette.
Thank you.
That was Public Environmental Arbiters Chairperson and Environmental Whistleblower Mariette Liefrank sharing her insights on the AMD challenge in South Africa.